Alright, so I'm here in my shop in beautiful Helena, Montana. It's a little too cold, it's a little too windy to do any kind of fishing today, so what I'm doing is I'm preparing myself for the upcoming season. And one of the things that I'm doing is tying up these indicators. These indicators are just little puff balls with a little bit of foam, and I use them for short leashing. Short leashing isn't something that I've created. It's something that has become really popular in the last, few years, maybe 6 or 7 years. I know people did it before then. People do it in other places. So it's not like we created this or I created this, but with everything in fly fishing, we have the opportunity to try to improve on some things. So that was the whole point of me developing these little indicators, and I'm going to show you what that's all about right now. Now, we've talked about short leashing either in my blog, or you've heard us talk about it on our podcast. Basically, short leashing is just going really short, maybe 2 to 3 feet with a nymph rig, not a lot of weight. And what you're trying to do is you're targeting either fish that are in really skinny water or fish that are looking up. The challenge with short leashing is just coming up with the right indicator. There are pinch-ons out there that I just don't like because they either slide off your leader, or you're so far away from your fly line it's hard to roll those the pinch-ons over. They're hard to cast. Thingamabobbers are really heavy, really hard to cast, especially for really hard to cast with the short leash, especially for beginners. It's not comfortable for them. They don't really get an idea of what casting ought to be, so I try to stay away from the thingamabobbers unless I'm using a long leader or a deep nymph rig. Alright, so we're gonna just talk a little bit about tying this indicator first. What I have here is I'm just using a hopper hook because that's what I have handy. And what I'm going to do is I put it in the vise and then I bend this down. Essentially what I'm doing is making an eye. Instead of having a hook there's going to be an eye on the front of the hook, that's factory, and an eye on where the hook was. Now there's an eye. What I'll do is just dress this real quick. I'm just using red thread. You can do whatever you want. So I dress that, and then I'm going to take just a small piece of foam, and I usually cut it at an angle, and I put the long side up. And the only reason I do that is because it makes it easier to finish it in the end. And then in order to get that foam to stay in one place, you gotta wrap around it a few times and then just back. So you got that going for you. So the foam's on there pretty secure. Now I'm gonna take some of this fluorescent pink Icelandic sheep hair, lay it down just like you would be putting a wing pattern on a fly. Get that pretty secure, and then I bend or fold this back, and again what I'm doing is I'm crowding or bunching those fibers up so that this sticks straight up. And then what I do is cut this off so that there's a nice puff ball. And then I'm just going to whip finish this. I usually do it a couple times. Cut that off. Pretty simple, and that took me just a few minutes to tie that. After I've tied my indicator, what I do is I take a 7.5 foot 2X leader, which gives it a little bit of distance to get away from the fly line, but it's stiff enough to where you can roll that rig over. And that's the key, is you have to be able to, when you're casting, is to get that thing to extend and roll out. And having a pretty thick leader will allow you to do that. And I tie that leader right to the eye, the factory eye of the indicator that I tied. Okay, so it looks like that. Right? The beauty of this is not only is it easy to cast, but now you can pretty much tie whatever tippet material you want off the end of this indicator. If you're going really tiny flies in some flat water, you could tie 6X off of that and put a little emerger on it, and you'd be golden. What I'm gonna do, and normally this is what I wind up doing, is this is pretty much a standard rig of mine. I go 3 feet probably with 4X fluorocarbon, and I tie it right to the hook that I've bent around. And tie a little clinch knot, just like I was tying a fly on. And then I take a weight fly, and these weight flies are great. They're just heavy enough to get under the surface, but they don't sink real fast. It's a great lead fly just to get your bugs down a little bit, and they can be any color you want. Alright, so I have a weight fly about that far, couple feet, 2.5 feet from my indicator, and then I can tie another fly off of that. Now this fly is solely dependent on what's happening. If there are mayflies hatching, then obviously you would have a mayfly sort of nymph. You could do an emerger, you can do another beadhead. Right now there's a lot of midges in the water, so I just tie another cinch knot right to the bend of the hook of my first fly, cut the excess off, and then a foot to 8 inches below, or 18 inches below that, I would tie, I'm just going to tie a zebra midge, because I know that 'tis the season. I know that there's midges in the water. I know that they'll eat this. However, right now a pretty hot fly is just the hot bead sow bug, or fire bead sow bug. Alright. So what you got here is foam indicator with some hair. You got a weight fly and a little zebra midge below that, and that is just a standard short leash, and it's using the indicators that I've been tying. Now these indicators, you will have to gink them up a little bit, but they float really well. They float high, and they're really a sensitive indicator. So if you're not getting a drift, it'll let you know. It'll sink. It'll definitely get dragged under. So you got to have a really good drift, and that, honestly, I think that's great for beginners, because they have to learn to do it to get a really good drift. They have to do it well. The better they get a drift, the more fish they're going to catch. As far as the casting goes, these things are so simple to cast. It's just like throwing a dry fly. So beginners, again, they get that real feel of what fly fishing ought to feel like. And it's just really effective. So the next time you're out at your bench, you know, you're heading out to the water, you're tying up some flies, tie up some of these indicators. Try them out. Try out the short leash, see what happens.
We're sipping martinis under the skyline and watching the leather as they walk on by. Feeling small, now I'm cutting ties. We're dreaming of the big sky. I don't know where we are going to, and who knows where we might have been. If I left you back in Berlin,